All right, welcome to the WPIAL Blitz Show. This is the PIAA edition. Wow, Ian, we made it this far. There's my buddy, Ian McMeans. Ian, why don't you introduce our very special guest that we've got this evening?
Yes, we are honored to have Coach Akeem Robinson, the defensive coordinator of the Serra Catholic Eagles. Oh, sorry, I should say the three-time WPIAL champion Serra Catholic Eagles. Coach Robinson's defense produced 9 turnovers in the 2A championship game against Beaver Falls, taking 3 of them back for touchdowns. Just an overall incredible performance. So, Coach, congratulations on the championship and an awesome job by your defense.
Oh, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Honored to be here. Thank you for just having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Serra Catholic's been through a lot this year with, everything that's going on with Coach Regis and everything else. So just talk a little bit about the season and everything else and, everything that's got you to this point of being WPIAL champions.
Oh, man, I can't start this thing off without shouting out my dog, Coach Jose Regis. I mean, my man's, he was battling all year, since the summer. When he got diagnosed, he had lost a lot of weight. And, it was heavy on the team. So just from the start of the season, controlling emotion. And then we couldn't even start until June, you know what I mean? So that was something to battle through in and of itself. So when we get back, we're dealing with the emotion of Coach Jose and just trying to battle through that, to work through the season, to get understanding what their goal was, And the thing was, the kids, they locked in ASAP. I mean, when it came time to put in work on the field in the summer, we put in work on the field. When it came time to put in work in the weight room, they was putting in work. And I mean, the senior leadership is everything. You know what I mean? A team of 14 seniors, I mean, that helps a lot. You know what I mean? And for this team, they grew up actually in the system. They all been together for a while, 4 years for most of the seniors, you know what I'm saying? So that's been something special to have, to where you can literally groom this unit together, this whole class together. And, they're incredible. So just getting through the season, we played fairly decent early on. You know what I mean? We started the season pretty well defensively, causing turnovers, scoring. I mean, I think our first 4 games, we scored a touchdown in almost every game. It was crazy, early on, and nothing that I could have predicted. I'll tell you that. I could have predicted that. I can't even, think that we would ever do anything like that ever again. You know what I mean? But these kids, they work day in and day out, in practice. So some of the things we're not, too surprised by, but certain things we are.
I think you had 8 defensive touchdowns going into the championship game and then 3 more in the title game. So, I mean, 11 defensive touchdowns is
incredible. That's an incredible stat.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually work on attacking the ball, though. I mean, that's one of the things that we do every single day since the summer is attack the ball. So, I mean, that's just something we do. And then when it comes down to when we get it, they're playmakers, man. They try to get to that end zone at any moment they can. So it's exciting, man. They're exciting to watch, exciting to coach. Oh, man.
And from what I've seen, you guys have done it at all 3 levels too. I mean, it's not just the guys in the secondary are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but they do it up front. They force fumbles. The linebackers are really good. It's just all 3 levels of the defense have been outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all 3 levels are making tackles. I mean, our leading tackler is the defensive end, Ryan Brooks. And I mean, Ryan Brooks has been a force all year. You know what I mean? I mean, he has, I want to say almost 20 tackles for what? 20 or 30 tackles for losses, somewhere in between there. He's going crazy. I got to pull his stats up. I should have pulled them up already. But Ryan Brooks, Mike Shank. I mean, talk about Mike Shank. Mike Shank, you can't teach what he has. Mike Shank has a motor like no other. And I mean, Javon Holt, all over the field. But then you add a Terrell Booth out there who's all over the field. Farrell Fisher has been locked down almost every week. I mean, I don't know if anybody's caught more than 3 passes on him yet. You know what I mean? Fingers crossed, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, and Daquan Chatfield. I mean, how about him? You know, I could talk about these guys a lot. McCab Brooks, you know, coming in on the defensive end, you know, and I mean, we've been battling through injuries and just keep fighting. You know, the next man keeps stepping up and making plays, so it's special.
Well, we can see where your team gets their energy. You're a high energy guy. But look, is there something, you know, about maybe a good loss? I mean, that loss there, the last regular season game. Talk a little bit about that maybe and how that may have propelled you and your team to success that you've seen this postseason.
I'll say that Still Valley loss definitely it calmed us down in a sense where it wasn't as if we had a lot of pressure of keeping an undefeated record anymore. You know what I mean? And once that pressure left, it became, you know, all right, why did we lose? You know, we had to really take a look in the mirror at ourselves. Like a lot of our flaws weren't being exposed, you know, and then when you run into a back like Najee Burt, my gosh, listen, I think we played almost all the great 2A backs so far and coming up with another one. But Najee Burt, boy, that boy is mean. And he exposed some flaws in the defense that, you know, we were getting away with. If I had to say, certain teams couldn't expose them, and he helped expose those. So once he helped expose those, and I want to say he ran for what, like 194 on us. He was like the first person, you know, we were coming in, and I think we didn't give up a 50-yard rusher at the time. And he goes 194, like, wow, you know, and then after that, you know, I think 80-yard rushers here with 2,000-yard rushers. So it definitely helped us shore up, you know, the defensive side of the ball with certain flaws in certain areas. But, you know, just on the offensive end too, and special teams, man, it made us take a deep look at ourselves, you know, and understand where we were as a team and where we wanted to be. You know, we understood, like, if we wanted to win the championship, you know, there's certain things that we're going to have to do. There's certain things that's going to have to get met, and a certain level of play that has to be reached. And, you know, they just rose to the challenge. You know, week after week, they kept reloading. It didn't matter. You know, when we lost, believe it or not, none of our kids were like down or pouting. They were like, you know, it's cool. You know, and then we came out with Nishanik, and they played very well out of that loss. So, you know, and the rest, y'all know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, and you know, like you said, after Nishanik, you played Laurel, who had Luke McCoy, who ran for 1,700 yards, and I think Kobe DeRosa ran for over 1,000, and you guys shut them out. It was a 6-0 game, and your defense came up with a big stop at the end there. And then Stowe Rocks, who had just been dynamic all year, both, you know, passing and running. Jamar Pearson run for 1,300 yards. You guys held them to 12 points. And then, you know, just what you did in the championship game to Jaron Brickner and Beaver Falls. I mean, that was 3 really, really good, you know, 40-point a game offenses that you just shut down. I mean, Stowe Rocks had scored 62 the first 2 rounds, and you guys held them to 12. I mean, that was just an incredible performance.
I mean, I try to go to them kids. Them kids, I'm trying to tell you, listen, you know, I'm a map for the kids. That's what I like to say. You know, the kids went out there and they made the plays, man. They went out there and executed. You know, they put the pressure on them. You know, they put pressure on those offenses. And let me tell you, incredible offenses. You know, Laurel coming in, Kobe and Luke, man, listen, to game plan for 2,000-yard rushers, you know how long that takes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's, you know, but for us, you know, it was all about just playing sound defense. Each game, we knew we couldn't make a lot of mistakes. We knew if we brought the ball carriers down, you know, phenomenal ball carriers, we knew that if we could get them down in those one-on-one situations, you know, in the open field, we felt like we were going to have a shot. You know what I mean, at any moment, because we feel like we got great speed, and we feel like we're going to be able to play with anybody. It doesn't matter what you run, doesn't matter how big you are. You know, we just got the confidence that, you know, if we play our game, You know, it's going to be very hard, you know, for anybody. You know, we can make any offense uncomfortable, you know what I mean, with our speed, and then just the IQ of the team. I mean, just having, like I said, them seniors and juniors out there. I mean, they're smart. They've been playing together so long. It just works out well. But wow, I mean, those are some great performances, man. I mean, they hit a hat trick, man. That's crazy.
They did. And now you've got a Farrell team that has a 2,000-yard rusher in Anthony Stallworth. You know, and then potentially looming out there, if you get past him, is Gavin Garcia, Southern Columbia, who's like, you know, approaching the state record in rushing yards. So you guys, you know, it just keeps getting tougher this time of year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't expect nothing less though. You know, I mean, we in the state semis at this point, so everybody is going to be great at this point. You know what I mean? They make it this far to the Final Four in the state. I don't expect nobody to not be good at this point. So, I mean, that Farrell team coming in, I mean, they got athletes all over. You know, Stallworth, he a man amongst boys. You know what I mean? He's phenomenal. I mean, he run like Le'Veon Bell. But he could come downhill and give it to you. He can stiff arm you. He can outrun you. So it's going to be a challenge in and of itself just to, you know, bring him to the ground and get him, you know, see what we could do there. But, oh, man, they got more than just Stallworth, though, man, out there. You know, you see why they're undefeated. You see why where they're at. And, I mean, all respect to their program. I mean, you know, the success formula got them up here. So you already know what time it is with them. We know it's going to be a war zone up slippery rock. We know that we got to come and fasten our chin straps, you know. So it's going to be a game, man. We going to see how it play out.
How important is it going to be for you guys to get on top early? I mean, this is you know, obviously they've had their way with all of their opponents. You know, do you think it's going to be important for you guys to maybe get up on top early, make these guys uncomfortable, make them, you know, think about a part of the game that they may not have experienced all year long?
I'll tell you that would help. You know what I mean? if we can get up early, you know, but I mean, we know that we got to play 4 quarters regardless. You know, if we're up early, you know that we can't get comfortable. That doesn't matter. We could be up 14. That doesn't matter. This team right here, I mean, they could throw 21 up on you in a quarter, you know. So we got to go out and I know we got to play some good football. You know, the defense, how they got to pick it up another level. I know that's going to be incredibly hard, but they got to somehow, some way, because this team is loaded. You know what I mean? They're loaded with talent. And like you said, you know, if we don't get up early, you know, it could get kind of comfortable for us. You know what I mean? Because of the talent that they have and what they can do. So, you know, I think if we play some good football, though, you know, we got a shot out there, you know.
Oh yeah, you guys have a chance against anybody. I mean, the way you guys play, I mean,
defense travels well.
Defense travels well. Defense wins championships. I mean, you know, I liken watching your defense to, you know, watching those Tyler Boyd Clareton teams that had, you know, not only Tyler Boyd, but Titus Howard, Terrace Webb, those guys who are basically wide receivers back there in the secondary that were just, you know, keying on passes and taking them back to the house all the time. And it's a similar feeling watching you guys play. Is just, you know, you guys, it's like having 4 wide receivers back there in the defensive backfield.
Hey, that's an honor putting us with that class. You can't do that. That's too much of an honor right there. They got to win some more.
I'm just saying it's similar watching the way your defense plays, especially in the secondary.
Oh man, they work hard, man. I mean, like I said, man, when you got Farrell Fisher out there with Javon Holt, Terrell Booth, Elijah Ward, Daquan Chatfield, you know, even Jasir Young, who's a sophomore, man. I mean, these guys have been phenomenal just with their communication, every play, and just the work they put in. You know, they get to go up against each other every single day. Like, imagine your practice with Terrell Booth against Farrell Fisher, Javon Holt against Daquan Chatfield, Amir Spencer, you know, against Jasir Young. This is what we got, the luxury, you know, to battle week in and week out with them at practice. So, you know, when they come on the field, it's like, you know, sometimes they feel as if like, yo, practice is a little bit harder this week, you know, because they might not be going up against the same caliber receiver sometimes, you know. So,
Yeah.
but we know this week, hey, you know, this is why these practices have been coming in handy for weeks like this, you know, weeks like Stowe Rocks, weeks like Beaver Falls, you know what I mean? I believe that those practices came in handy for the secondary.
Sure. And, you know, look, there's both sides of the ball. Obviously, you're the defensive coordinator there, but obviously you're facing a pretty formidable offensive team every day at practice there. Talk a little bit about, you know, the offensive side of the ball and, you know, what you expect out of them going up against Farrell this week.
I mean, the offensive side of the ball, shout out to my man Mick Bettler, man. Coach Mick, he been dialing it up too. You know, the offense just going up against Farrell is gonna be tough. You know, I mean, they got some good DNs out there that rush fast. You know, they got athletes on that in their secondary as well. Very good linebackers. So, you know, the offense just, you know, we're gonna have to go out there and play. You know, Max got to play his game. You know, not think too much. You know, and just do him and understand that he can get the ball to our guys and, you know, try to let our guys work, you know, and see what we can make happen in the open field. So just, you know, balling out. That's what they got to do on the offensive end. Ball, you know, don't turn the ball over. You know, continue to just protect the ball and play smart football. Max Rocco's the man, though. You know what I mean? He's a senior. So we're hoping that he come in playing with good senior leadership. McCav Detrail, wow. You know what I mean? He's gonna have to have another great day on Friday night. You know, we need a Terrell Booth to step up, you know, and come back to life, you know what I mean? So we just gonna need everybody to play well, the O-line collectively up down to the quarterback and the receivers. We all just gotta play well and sound football, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure over the last couple of years here to get to know your team and gosh, to make it obviously to a state semifinal, the opportunity, you know, to get the Hershey, you know, what has that meant to the Serra Catholic community?
Oh, that's meant everything. I mean, I remember when we was in the semis against Stowe Rocks, the principals came to me and they said to all of us, like, just get there. Like, just get the hats. You know what I mean? And it was funny because it was like, you know, everyone wanted to feel it again. You could sense it, like just with the alumni support. We had people showing up at practices all the time, and it was just love, and you could feel it around, you know, and then the sense of urgency with Coach Jose, you know what I mean? Like everybody wanted it. Jose literally told the team, like, man, guys, I want to walk on Heinz Field. And they was like, you know what? Cool. We're going to do what we got to do. Anything, whatever it takes. And, you know, some games it might not have been the most prettiest win. You know, it could have been ugly. The defense might have did it. The offense might have did it. The special teams, it don't matter. You know what I mean? For us, ultimately, we just want to come away with a W.
Well, Ian can vouch for me in the fact that, you know, I felt that you guys were going to be kind of the team that was going to fly. I don't want to say fly under the radar, but maybe one that was going to emerge this season. And you did. I mean, not that you're making me look good, but you know, I can kind of see that in your team, you know, because it's a process, isn't it? I mean, you don't just automatically become good. I mean, it's a process over a period of time, not only for a team, but for a coaching staff and a community, right? To reach the level that you're at now.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been at this thing for 5 years. You know what I mean? The same staff. And then all 4 years with these seniors, you know, and 3 years with these juniors. So it's like we put the time in to rebuild the culture, put the, you know, and put our culture and what we believe into the team. And, you know, just with the support of the school, the administration, I mean, you know, they let us, you know, just run our game. And it's been amazing, you know, Coach Jose has been incredible throughout the process of this too, you know, and leading and just being who he is as a great human and a great man, you know, that he's a better man than he is a coach. You know what I mean? And he's a phenomenal coach. So, you know, it's just been great to see the team filled with good men, and then just good children that buy in, and then that grew to being young men. So that's what it's been about. And you could just see their maturity through their play, and you can see their maturity in the way that they communicate with one another, and just how they are, man. It's crazy because watching them, you know, grow up like this. Like, I seen them coming in, you know, little kids, and now they driving to school. It's like, dang, y'all,
Yeah.
they grow now.
It's got to be enormously fulfilling.
Absolutely. But you got to put that work in, man. No, you're not getting to that level quick. It's going to be a lot of hours. It's going to be a lot of pain. It's going to be a lot of, you know, work just day in and day out that you got to keep it up, you know, even into the off season to get to this level. So, you know, we still trying to sustain it. So we're going to see. Don't get me talking too much.
No, congratulations, Coach, on everything you've accomplished. I mean, like you said, not only with, you know, what we've done on the field, but off the field with, you know, just building, like you said, children into young men is, you know, an incredibly fulfilling part of coaching, and an incredibly important part of what everyone does, everyone in your profession does. So yeah, congratulations on being champions and everything you've done with the program.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
All right,
thank
Coach,
you.
Listen, thank you so very much. Hey, as I made mention, I'm going to connect with you, you know, after football season's over here. You and I have a lot of things to talk about. Hopefully we can, you know, connect and talk more about who you are and what you do. And you're a high energy guy that your team is very lucky to have as part of. So thanks a lot and best of luck this week. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me, man. And I love the show. Keep doing what y'all doing, man. I appreciate y'all.
Well, thanks
you
so
very
much,
Coach.
Take care. Have a nice evening.
Right,
all right, we'll see you. Wow.
Okay.
I mean,
that was
talk
great.
about a high energy guy.
He's such a good person to follow on Twitter, you know, and I've been hoping to have him on for a while. I'm really glad we got to have Coach Akeem on. He's a great dude, and highly recommend people follow him on Twitter. He has a you know, training program that he does for people. You can check that out too. As in addition to being just an awesome defensive coordinator for Serra, and really up and coming star in the coaching ranks too. You know, I could definitely see him being a very, very good head coach somewhere, you know, in the near future too.
You know, I was talking to him, you know, before you got on the Zoom here, and we were talking about the fact that, you know, CD East out here kind of went with that model of, you know, kind of a young, high energy trainer to, you know, reinvigorate a program. Now, it may not be with Serra Catholic, but it's going to be with somebody else. That's pretty clear. I mean, the way that his defense flies around, and, you know, his energy, as well as the philosophy. Look, just as much time and success for a football team is away from the field as it is on the field. You know, with his expertise in training and getting people ready and all of that, got to be an enormous advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and look at like Bishop Canavan, right? The you know, Coach Johnson, who we interviewed last week, he was just an assistant coach at Baldwin at a 6A school. And I think it was a head coach in middle school and assistant coach for the varsity team. And, you know, Bishop Canavan, a 1A program, took a shot on him, and now they're WPIAL champions 2 years later. So, you know, yeah, I think like you said, that it's, you know, there's a lot of up and coming stars in the coaching profession here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, well, why don't we go ahead and get started a little bit here, talking about, you know, what you want to get rolling here. And I think we've got a Farrell head coach going to join us here in a little while, hopefully.
Yes, that'll be great. So
the road to Hershey,
road to Hershey. We are on to the state semifinals here. We have our 6 WPIAL champions now. So Bishop Canavan in 1A, Serra in 2A, Central Valley in 3A, Aliquippa in 4A, Penn Trafford in 5A, and then Mount Lebanon in 6A. So it's been, you know, we had a great weekend at Heinz Field, had some weather as well, you know, some snow, some football weather, but really some historic results, right? You know, Aliquippa winning their, you know, record 18th championship, Mount Lebanon getting their 8th, Central Valley getting their 5th, But then for some other schools, you know, it's just the third title for Serra Catholic, just the second for Bishop Canevin, which was the first for them since 1990. And then Penn Trafford winning their first WPIAL championship game in school history. So some great accomplishments all around and some really historic results as well. So let's talk about this Serra Catholic game. You know, we mentioned the 9 turnovers, the 3 defensive touchdowns. You know, Coach mentioned a lot of these guys that had big games. Terrell Booth had 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6, a forced fumble. Mike Shanek was just all over the field as like defensive end, outside linebacker. I mean, 2 sacks, forced fumble, 3 fumble recoveries. Just he was everywhere in the backfield. You know, Makai Dutrell, 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. And really, I mean, the score's a little bit deceiving here. This was a 14-12 game with like 6 minutes left. And then Serra got a pick 6 and then got a fumble with a short field and scored again, and then got another fumble return for a touchdown to kind of blow it open at the end. But I mean, you know, with the three touchdowns in the last 6 minutes that all kind of either 2 were defensive and 1 came right off a fumble. So like a fumble and they got on the 2-yard line, but still, you know, a great defensive performance from Serra Catholic that made the final score what it was. But, you know, this game was a lot closer than that for a long time because I think the weather played a factor too, that both Serra and Beaver Falls were pretty pass heavy offenses. Mm-hmm. And with the wind kind of slowed them down a little bit and reduced them to running the ball a lot, and both defenses, to their credit, against the run did a really good job kind of stringing things to the outside, you know, bringing guys down in space and not really letting either team move the ball down the field. I think in addition to having 9 turnovers, I think Serra punted the ball 7 times. So, wow. You know, it was,
well, that was the reason why I asked Coach the question about jumping out on top, because Farrell has pretty much had their way with their opponents. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where Serra has had to fight and claw. They've been behind. And that's a culture shock. Okay. When teams, you know, that kind of have their way with everybody, all of a sudden get punched in the mouth and have to do things a little bit differently. So that's why I asked the question. Yeah. And that's going to be the most intriguing thing for me about how this all unfolds here in the semifinal is who's going to get off to the fast start and who's going to be the one that imposes their will on their opponent between Serra Catholic and Farrell.
Well, since you mention it, you know, and for both of these teams, picking just a few like key players was really difficult. But yeah, I mean, Farrell.
Coach is here, so
we'll great. Okay, we will loop him in then.
All right. Excellent. And I'll let you introduce him.
Sure.
Oh my, we love that picture.
That's wonderful. So we will have head coach Anthony Pegues from Farrell joining us here. Farrell is the District 10 2A champions, and we're really honored that Coach Pegues took the time to join us. So thank you very much for joining us, Coach. Welcome to the WPIAL Blitz show. We're honored that you took the time to join us tonight. Congratulations not only on the district title this year and reaching the state semifinals, but on an undefeated season. And you know, it's we got a big semifinal matchup here against Serra Catholic.
For sure, you know, so you know your program's doing pretty good if you're still playing right now, and we're just happy to be here.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your season. I know that, you know, some of the WPIAL folks are a little bit familiar with Farrell's program. You used to play in the WPIAL for a while and before you moved up to District 10. But, you know, talk a little bit about your program. A lot of people are familiar with Anthony Stallworth, obviously, and the excellent season he's having, but you guys have a lot of darn good players on that team. So, you know, I think a lot of people are kind of excited to find out, you know, what all's going on up there.
Yeah, for sure. You know, my senior class with Anthony Stallworth, a lot of them guys have been playing basically 4 years as freshmen. You know, a lot of them guys won a state title in 18 and in 19. And those, my senior class are a really big factor for our program, you know, and things are going really, really good right now for us.
Well, you've kind of had your way with your opponents this year, Coach. I mean, would you consider that maybe to be a handicap a little bit going into some of these tougher games against tougher opponents that your seniors may not have had to experience a little hardship or, possibly even getting behind, how that'll affect, their mentality?
Yeah, for sure. It's always kind of feel like it's a hardship when you're beating teams. By the way, we were beating teams, but we did have some games with some adversity. With the Westinghouse game, we were losing in that game at one point. And our guys were able to fight back, and we needed games like that to give us some adversity. Even last week, it wasn't a cakewalk for us, and had to play in some rough conditions, and we had to fight our way back through that. But it's the state playoffs, and I think a lot of experience that we have with my senior class, from last year being ousted early and winning a couple state titles, a lot of that experience is showing up.
So the WPI or not WPIAL, the PIAA's success formula forced you guys up into 2A, a couple years ago. Last year, you guys lost 2 games to Wilmington. This year, you guys beat the crap out of Wilmington twice. For 2 schools that had kind of been nearby districts for a while, what was that like now being in a classification with Wilmington head to head instead of them being in 2A, you being in 1A?
It was different for us, but we kind of knew it was coming. We played them back in. We actually started playing them back around 2015. So playing them almost every year was something we was kind of getting accustomed to. And when we heard about the success factor thing back in, I think, 2018, we knew what it was. We as long as we kept winning and us being a transient community, just like Aliquippa, we get kids that move in and out of the community all the time. And a lot of those kids get counted as transferred, but I wish they need to look into that a little bit more instead of just saying, "Oh, kid moved in, he's a transfer."
Yeah.
A lot of times those kids will move in, and we have small rosters, so you're gonna want every kid to come out and play. You're not gonna tell kids not to play it. And some of the times those kids that come in won't even play, won't even see the field, but they're counted as transfers. And so that success factor rule is a little. I think they need to look into that a little bit more. Actually, they really need to do away with it, but it is what it is, and we got to deal with it right now.
Yeah, the success factor is something that Bruce and I have talked about a lot on the show throughout the year, and I agree with you that it does kind of adversely impact the communities that have a higher rental population, like you said, a more transient community. That when you have people that move in and out because of jobs or whatever a lot, that you're going to get kids moving schools, and it's just something that happens. And so I agree with you. I think that looking at especially the transfer part of the success formula, really adversely impacts those type of communities, not just in Western Pennsylvania, but statewide too.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, talk a little bit about, you talk, about the fact, hey, you have kids moving in and out. Talk about how you're retaining this winning culture there year after year after year. What does that require of you, your coaches, and the community?
It requires a lot. We're not a 8-month program. We're a 12-month program here. We're all year round, and there's a lot of factors that has to come about for you to have a successful program. And the season is winding down here. It could be this week, it could be next week, and we're right back in it come January. And we're more father figures to the kids, not just coaches. And the kids kind of look up to us, and we need the trust from the kids and the community, and we're community rally around the kids, and just having that support system will help you have a better program. We get kids, all kind of kids that come out and play, and they see the success we're having, and they want to be a part of it. And our coaches put in a lot of time. They put in a lot of time and effort in doing what we do as coaches. And like I said, we're not an 8-month program. We're a program that starts in the summer. We go all year round. We go 12 months, and I feel like that's the best way that you're going to build a program.
And you guys have had some tremendous success with kids going on to play at the next level too. It's been really cool to kind of watch from afar, just the amount of success you've been able to have for a small school program.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of kids. That's what we're trying to pride ourselves on now, not just winning football games, but putting kids in college or putting kids in trade school or just making men out of kids, and if we're doing that as a program, you're going to be very successful. It's not just about all the wins and losses, but it's actually building a program. And that's what we're trying to do here. And like I said, we have a lot of kids that's going every year out to college, and getting degrees, and just putting kids in the workforce, just make them better citizens. So that's what I'm most proud about the program.
That's awesome.
Do you feel that this year there's a little bit different attitude about the 2A bracket, only because of the fact that Southern Columbia may not be like the gigantic entity that it once was, that there's kind of a chink in the armor, that there's opportunity for other schools possibly to grab that brass ring in Hershey?
Yes, for sure. A lot of times coming in 2A, you always know that Southern Columbia is going to be there, and a lot of people kind of think, especially in some publications, we are ranked number 1 in the state. So a lot of people kind of think that this is the time for someone else to come in and steal that brass ring or that gold ring, so to speak, in Double A. And like it says, Serra Catholic is another good team that have the same success. And obviously, the WPIAL teams and the competition that they play, and they're going to be well prepared to play. And so there's a lot of great 2A teams in there, the Steel Valleys, the Beaver Falls, Stowe Rocks, and even Westinghouse. There's a lot of good teams this year in 2A, and there could have been any number of teams that could have the opportunity to win that AA championship. So we're just proud to be still here playing and have an opportunity to move on.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
So I have to ask, just because this is a WPIAL show, a couple years your program, petitioned to rejoin the WPIAL, and it eventually didn't happen for a number of factors. But would you still consider coming back to the WPIAL? I mean, personally, I think it would be really cool for a lot of those like Lawrence County schools, some of the Beaver County schools, to be able to have Farrell back in the loop. But that's just, I'm one guy who has a YouTube show, so I don't really have much of a voice. But I have to ask the question.
Yeah, for sure. It's always been talks about rejoining WPIAL. The problem with it is I think that the district won't let us leave. The District 10 won't let us out. The WPIAL will definitely, from my understanding, will welcome us back. But in order to do that, you have to be able to leave your district. And they're all intertwined. All districts are intertwined through the PIAA. And I played in a WPIAL. I won a state championship in a WPIAL in '95. So, I always love the competition there, And that's definitely something that we talk about all the time, is joining a WPIAL.
Cool. Well, From one guy who has a YouTube show, I would love to see you come back. But like I said, I don't have much say in it.
Right, for sure. That's something that, like you say, it's talked about yearly. We don't know where actually need to go with it to join or come back. Or initially it was thought of by us leaving the WPIAL as a travel thing. To play locally in our district up here, a lot of local schools, but it's actually turning out to be, at some point, like a couple years ago, was more travel being in the District 10 than it would be in a WPIAL, because we would play probably in the old Big 7 conference. We've been playing with Union and Stowe Rocks and Rochester's and the old Monaca, where it used to be, stuff like that. We had those great rivalries back then, and that's something that we kind of definitely miss. But as of right now, that's where we're at.
Yeah. That's one of the things I felt when the state moved to 6 classifications, was that it was going to really impact travel for a lot of teams. And I think a lot of schools felt that. I know, around here, just like I think Apollo Ridge chose to play up the first couple years because, they would have had like no schools within 25 miles of them if they had stayed in 2A, but they moved up to 3A and had like 5 or 6 schools within 25 miles. So just for the better travel schedule, they chose to play up. So haven't seen that as much the last couple cycles, but the first few cycles, we definitely saw it.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the things now, is we actually were thinking about even going to this next cycle for us, because then we go play more local schools, the Sharon, Hermitage, Grove City schools, or border schools for us to actually touch our city. So it's been some thought of that right now. To actually, we need to make that decision here in the next couple of weeks. So we're actually really been thinking about it.
Breaking news here on the WPIAL Blitz show. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we were definitely thinking about it. I think the problem that you kind of get is that you don't know what's going to happen. The things that's happening with Aliquippa right now, them being so successful, and them possibly going to have to move up to 5A, because of that success factor, which is really kind of disheartening for a small school single A enrollment that's going to be forced up to play 5A. So that's kind of where we're trying to decide and think, like, do we want to make this jump? You know, if we stay here, maybe we dominate a little bit in AAA, and we might end up in the same point in a couple of years where we might be forced up to 4A. So that kind of makes you think about, should we do this or shouldn't we do this? But we're in the talks with that right now.
That makes
Wow.
sense.
Hey,
Yeah.
breaking news, Ian. How about that?
So on that note, though, just out of curiosity, I guess since you didn't win the district title last year, you wouldn't have enough success points to move up, but I guess you've got enough this year that you have to stay up in 2A, but you don't have enough to be forced up again. So, okay, got it. I was just working through the math in my head.
Yeah, those things, you know, we don't have to move up, but we definitely have to stay in AA. We won't be going back down to single A. Well, we can't go down to single A. But like you said, but to get some games and local games and more, probably a little more competitive games, we were definitely thinking about the AAA.
Yeah.
Wow. And it makes sense. I mean, it does. And then there's obviously the risk involved, is if, you know, through the success formula, you're forced up. But look, the teams that have, it's funny, the teams that have even gotten forced up after they've moved up have been successful at the level that they got forced up to. So, I mean, you know, that really hasn't been an issue. Aliquippa, Imhotep, you know, Cathedral Prep. I mean, so, you know, it's not like you just have to, you know, raise the bar a little bit more yourself. But when it means getting a reasonable schedule where you're not traveling so much, that could be in the cards.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because, you know, like, it's one thing to kind of move up on your own, like Aliquippa did. They're a single A school. They've been playing up probably forever, playing double A and then triple A. But to kind of be forced up is kind of a tough thing to do, because you kind of look down the line sometimes and see the future of your program with what it can be like or how good you could possibly be. And sometimes you kind of say, okay, well, maybe we could go up right now and compete and do well then. But that's be something that the school should be able to make that decision, not the state telling them, or you're going up because your program is good, or you got kids in and out of your program. And take a school like Southern Columbia, who's been winning 4 in a row or 5 in a row, sort of thing. It's not, that rule is not affecting them because of
The
they're
transfer.
they're not a transient community. So I kind of think that maybe they should change the name from success factor to transfer factor instead of calling it a success factor, because that's not what's really happening right now.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Ian, you have any last question there for Coach?
No, I think I got everything. So, you know, congratulations on all the success you've had, Coach. You know, you're a great person to follow on Twitter if you want to plug your Twitter handle before you go. But, you know, best of luck this week and, you know, into the future as well.
Yes. You always can find me on Twitter. I'm under the Farrell High School football page, or I'm under at Pegues, PEGUESAMP on Twitter handler. And, you know, appreciate you guys having me on to talk a little bit of football and some other things, and just be here.
Well, good, Coach. Thanks a lot. For a District 3 guy, man, you know, it's hard not to root for, you know, teams such as yourself. So, you know, hopefully I can shake your hand on the field there in Hershey. Okay, I'll be there.
Yes, for sure. See you guys. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
All right. You know, actually, I tell you what, give the coaches credit. You know, I mean, they got in, they got out. You know,
They did. I had to perform some emergency surgery on my headset. It was falling apart here, so I taped it back up while we were doing the interviews. But you know, so I do have
news.
To,
wow, look at there, man. They may be thinking about going up, huh?
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool to see them play, like, you know, like you said, the Grove Cities and the Sharons and whatnot too. So,
well, and look at it too. Isn't Central Valley moving up? Aren't
Central
they going
Valley's
up to
moving
4A?
up to 4A. North Catholic's moving up to 4A also. They were over the enrollment limit by 1 boy.
Right.
So North Catholic's moving up too. So yeah, 4A is going to be incredible the next couple of years.
I guess I can understand why they might want, you know, it's not like they're going to be butting heads with, you know, like, you know, the big boys of the WPIAL, if they move up to 3A, not that obviously they will
Southern
be
Columbia
anyway.
gets moved up too.
But I'm just saying that, you know, the likes of Central Valley and North Catholic there, I can understand why they consider it there. So,
Yeah.
all right,
And
back to the
since we're
program.
in the, PIAA bracket now,
Yeah.
I had to wear my WPIAL versus Allian shirt tonight.
Oh my God. That's okay. Hey, look, I love it. I mean, this is the best time of year. It was funny because even on the I taped the pre-snap look, and those guys are asking me all these questions. Well, what about Mount Lebanon and Penn Trafford and whatever like that, and be able to,
Now
snap up with my opinions based on the fact that I've been following these teams all year has been great. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So back at it, just recapping this game again between Serra Catholic and Farrell. Farrell has, I believe, the highest scoring team in the state at 51 points a game. Really good defense as well. And I mean, Anthony Stallworth is, he's moving up the charts in like the Mercer County rushing records, both for single season and for his career, because he's now over 5,000 yards for his career. He's just been outstanding for Farrell. And like Coach mentioned, that they did play in the WPIAL for a little while. So these, the district championships in italics here are the ones they won as part of the WPIAL before they moved up to District 10. And so actually the 95 and 96 state championships count as WPIAL state championships.
Wow.
And not as District 10 state titles. But Farrell's a very decorated program. They've had a lot of success for a long time, and Serra Catholic, had that great run in 2007 where they had those 3 1,000-yard rushers that season, and now they're doing it with offense and defense. I mean, like Coach Akeem said, Max Rocco can throw the ball, and they've got, just picking 3 guys to put on this list was difficult, but Ryan Brooks was 13 sacks and 25 and a half tackles for loss. Terrell Booth's been outstanding on both sides of the ball. This is going to be a really good matchup. I mean, this is a buckle your chin strap matchup, because both of these teams are fast, they're physical, and they're aggressive. And it's definitely going to be a hard hitting matchup, and arguably one of the best ones statewide. I know there's a couple other really good matchups statewide, but this is going to be one of the best ones. Friday night at Slippery Rock. So this is one to watch.
And Coach was honest in what he talked about, is that there's blood in the water that in 2A in the state this year, that there's not this gigantic behemoth, that there's some chinks in the Southern Columbia armor that some teams might be able to take advantage of this year. So, a little bit added incentive.
Yeah. And on that note, we've got Farrell appearing in their 12th semifinal, Serra Catholic just their 2nd, Southern Columbia and their 23rd as the 4-time defending state champions. And Southern Columbia is taking on a Northern Lehigh team that hasn't been talked about a whole lot this year.
No. Boy, they're definitely the Rodney Dangerfield of that. And, Southern Columbia, on the road, I think they're playing in Lehighton, which isn't far from, Northern Lehigh. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting matchup there. Look, I still would favor Southern Columbia to get, to Hershey, but boy, they're going to have their hands full with whoever comes out of this Farrell Serra Catholic matchup. That is for sure.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for not only the semifinal but the potential final as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think everybody is this year.
Yeah. So moving on to 1A, Bishop Canavan won their 2nd WPIAL title in school history. We had talked with Coach Johnson last week. In this game, I mean, it was all about their defense. Ulsh scored first, and then Canavan scored to tie it at 7, and then Xavier Nelson really just broke it open. He caught a screen pass, basically, or wide receiver screen that he took to the house for I think it was a 69-yard touchdown, and then like 2 plays later he had a 45-yard pick 6, and then that broke it open to 21-7, and from there it was all Bishop Canavan. Nelson was without a doubt the player of the game. Two receptions, 101 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So 3 total touchdowns because the 1 pick 6 as well. And then Jaden Torres, running back, and also really good defensive end, had 2.5 sacks as well. So congratulations to Bishop Canavan on beating Olsh, and now moving on to play Red Bank Valley in the state semifinal.
Wow.
And Red Bank Valley, team out of District 9, District 9 hasn't had a lot of historical success. So, Red Bank Valley has been kind of building up to this for a few years now. They won the district title last year. Now they won a playoff game or a state playoff game this year to get here. So, and they're no slouch team either. I mean, they've got a quarterback that can throw the ball. They've got a couple running backs that are pretty good. So, this will be a good challenge. But overall, I mean, I think Bishop Canavan, with the way they play defense,
battle tested. Canavan is just battle tested.
Yeah, I agree. And District 9 historically has not had a ton of success against the WPIAL. So,
they're
I think
playing at North Hills too. I mean, it's practically a home game.
It is. And we should probably talk about that too, that, statewide, there was a lot of, I think the state really struggled this year to find places willing to host games. And so a lot of them that, were just, it was difficult to find schools willing to host. So there's some teams that have home games. At Central Valley, we'll talk about in a little bit, has a home game this week in the state semifinals. Just because it was just hard to find places to host.
And that's why, look, if you're you have to make sure that you have the buy-in from the schools when you set up these brackets, where you're these schools that are, crossing so many miles that you can actually get a neutral site.
Yeah.
Look, if that's not in the cards, then okay, then set up the brackets accordingly. Okay, that the teams aren't, that if somebody that if higher seeded team, or if they're at the top level of the bracket, is going to host, then don't make them drive all the way across the state. I mean, they can do that. I mean, there might be some games that teams are going to drive far, but I know why they do it, and it's to try and make it equal. But yet, I think they're it's not working right now, and even in the facilities that some of these games are being hosted, there's really no accountability. Sometimes there aren't full facilities open, as far as even restrooms and concessions, and the media areas are a little bit hard.
And I'll say for this one, Red Bank Valley's up kind of around Clarion, Pennsylvania. So they're probably one of the more southern, I guess, District 9 schools.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that far away from like Katanning and Ford City, which is Armstrong School District in the WPIAL. So they're one of the closer ones. So this is actually only like 65 miles for them to go to get to North Hills. So I mean, that's still
certainly isn't 65 miles for Canavan to get there.
No, it's not. It's I mean, they do have to cross a river though, which in Pittsburgh is like driving. Here's the thing though, in Pittsburgh, crossing a river is like driving 65 miles. It's like a foreign country to go from the South Hills to the North Hills. So if
you're kind of playing in your one of your conference schools stadium, it's almost like a home game. It was like Wyomissing playing Scranton Prep at Governor Mifflin. It was 3
right
blocks
next door.
I mean, so one team went 3 blocks, the other one went 3 hours. I mean, that's a neutral site, isn't it? Anyway, I'm done with that.
Yeah, I'll say I really like Canavan's chances in this one, especially with the way they play defense. But Red Bank Valley's been pretty good this year. So
hey, look, all these teams are good if they made it this far.
Yeah, and congratulations to them. It's a historic season for them, first state semifinal. On the other side, Bishop Guilfoyle came back from a 21 to 10 lead that Juniata Valley had on them to win 24-21 and get back to the state semifinals. And Canton won a pretty tight game against Old Forge, who I think those were like the top 2 ranked teams in the state, I believe. So Canton out of District 4. I know nothing about them, taking on Bishop Guilfoyle out of District 6, who's had a lot of historical success, in single A. They've played some state championship games against Clairton in the past. I know we've seen Bishop Guilfoyle before quite a bit. And then, Bishop Canevin or Red Bank Valley here.
Yeah, you have to give Canton a lot of credit. I mean, they have played some tough opponents to get to this particular point in the tournament. Bishop Guilfoyle, hey, I was following them very closely. Did obviously their championship games, pedigree there, and sometimes that means a lot. I think it means more. Like I talked with Coach about a process. Canton, one that is probably still, kind of building on a process. So have they expanded, the energy and the emotion to get this particular point? I guess that's what we'll find out, this weekend. But in all likelihood, yeah, I mean, they're really going to have to dig deep to get past this game.
Yeah. Well, and like we saw last year too. I mean, sometimes you're just a team of destiny, right? Like with Steel High, that Steel High won so many close games. Like the one they kicked a game-winning field goal. Then the next one they needed somebody to miss a field goal, and it was just like, they just had so many close calls, and then eventually, that you keep winning those close games. And
team of destiny.
Yeah. So that could be Canton this year, but we'll see. I still really like Bishop Canevin's chances to go all the way here. But we'll see how it plays out.
Well, it is what it is. And
in 3A, my alma mater got their butts kicked, but that's okay. And like I said at the beginning of the year,
it wasn't like you weren't expecting it.
Right. The only classification that I felt like there was a prohibitive favorite in coming into the year was Central Valley in 3A. And for North Catholic, this was a historic game for them. This was only the second time they made it to a WPIAL championship game in school history. So those kids have nothing to hang their heads about. I mean, they did something that only one other class at North Catholic had ever done. It was a great season for them, and Central Valley is just an absolute machine. I mean, they just, both sides of the ball, just the way they dominated this game. Sean Fitzsimmons, I've been calling him the terror of the trenches all year, lived up to that name. It was just basically living in North Catholic's backfield from his defensive tackle spot. Javen Thompson, wide receiver, defensive back, had 4 interceptions and 2 receiving touchdowns. Landon Alexander continues to be explosive. He just broke Central Valley school rushing record, which was held by Jordan Whitehead, who's now playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and just won a Super Bowl. So, that's a pretty good feat.
Yeah.
And Central Valley, now the 3-time defending WPIAL champions. Congratulations to the Warriors on a great season. And really, I mean, considering that this school was just formed in 2010 by the merger of Center and Monaca. So, they've won now in, 12 years, they've won 5 WPIAL titles, which is just incredible. So, sometimes mergers are a good thing for schools. We saw a lot of success, well, at least on the football field. Woodland Hills had a lot of success when they merged back in the 80s. Central Valley's now had a lot of success. So, and that was, I mean, Monaca was a 1A school and Center was a 2A school, and now they're a 3A school and moving up to 4A next year, which is just going to be absolutely incredible. So, looking forward now, though, Central Valley has a matchup against Central Martinsburg High School, which just goes by Central High School. And I've gotten into some discussions with some of my statewide friends, especially Pat, who runs the PA football history account, about how they are just Central and not Central Martinsburg, just Central High School. But their Central's quarterback, Jeff Hohenstein, just broke the state record last week with 56 touchdown passes in a season.
Holy cow.
So that's incredible. So Central Valley's secondary is definitely going to be tested here against Central Martinsburg, in their passing attack. It's just been outstanding this season. So we'll see where this one goes, but this is a really good matchup of strength on strength. And my little anecdote about Central Martinsburg is when I was at high school at North Catholic and in the band, Central Martinsburg was always the team or the band that we always measured ourselves against. And we only competed with them usually at like the statewide tournament levels, but because they were in just a different district than us, but they were in the same sort of classification that we were. So we'd always, go check the rankings after each week and be like, how'd Central Martinsburg do? What's their score? What was our score? So Central Martinsburg was always the ones that we measured ourselves against. So, and that was always the thing that our band director used as motivation too. He was always like, oh, Central Martinsburg might be there this week. You got to practice extra hard. And they were never there. But, that was always his motivational tactic, was saying Central Martinsburg was going to be there.
they're on that progression. Okay. I mean, consecutive district championships, getting to a state semifinal, logical next step is, I mean, they've been working, toward this. I mean, they've been on a path to get to this particular point. The problem is that they've got to go through, Central Valley. I mean, I would expect that it's going to be a lot closer game than what people give, Central credit to do. But I would view Central Valley as the team that come out of this matchup.
I would agree. I think Central Martinsburg can definitely score. I mean, there's no doubt about that, throwing 56 touchdown passes. But, Central Valley with Sean Fitzsimmons on their defensive line, with the secondary that they have, if you create pressure, especially pressure up the middle, it just destroys an offense. And especially a passing offense. Central Martinsburg is going to have to at least somehow establish the run or not throw a bunch of interceptions, one or the other. And that was really what got North Catholic in trouble, was throwing all those interceptions last week. So it's going to be a battle in this one. And, even the thing is, though, with a passing attack like Central Martinsburg has,
how's the weather going to be?
Game.
Okay, I think the weather's going to play an enormous factor in this game on who wins or loses.
Yeah, well, this one is at Central Valley too. I mean, they get a home game here just because of how the hosting worked out. So that's also a factor.
All right.
But looking at the statewide bracket, we've got Central Valley and Wyomissing still kind of on a collision course potentially for a rematch of last year's state final. But Newman-Goretti out of District 12 also beating Danville last week and getting to the semifinals here too.
Yeah, Coach Crosby's got a really good squad there at Newman-Goretti. I ran into him. We were talking actually at the WPIAL game, the District 3 championship game there. Coach Crosby and I he was there scouting and I was there covering, and I got to know him this spring, and that he's really got some athletes there. I saw a lot of these kids that are playing for Goretti playing 7-on-7 ball this spring, and they're pretty impressive, but just as impressive as Wyomissing. I mean, they didn't even have to attempt the pass against Scranton Prep. They just they're Mr. Tackle there, Javen Williams. I mean, it was funny. I was talking to him after a game, and I was just marveling at the fact that normally when there's a running play, people will give a high five to the running back. And Wyomissing, they high five the tackle. So, I mean, but their running attack is very good. I would view them that they're gonna come out of that matchup there. It's not going to be easy, quite honestly, because they do have to kind of go down to Philadelphia, down to Penridge High School, and sometimes that can affect your psyche a lot more than what you think. Just having to go into the Philadelphia area. But I think Wild's battle tested, great coaching staff. I think that they'll come out of that one.
Yeah. Yep.
And our buddy Andrew Cohen with Get Recruited Consulting has got a camp coming up actually next week. Check out all of his information at getrecruitedconsulting.com. Anybody, whether you're a parent or whether you're a player, if you've just got questions about what you should be doing related to your recruiting, doesn't matter whether you're a 22, 23, 24, 25 guy, give Andrew a call, 570-428-2872. He's not going to pull any punches, I can tell you that. He's got to be really honest. And Andrew and I are doing the CFB Recruiting Weekly show. We started that last week. And this week we'll have another show. And then he's got his camp the following week there. So CFB Recruiting Weekly, I'm sure you'll be seeing some stuff on that.
Cool. Yes. And thank you, Andrew, for your support of our show all season. In 4A, as we've talked about, Aliquippa winning their 18th WPIAL championship. And I mean, this was just complete and total domination of a really, really good Bell Vernon team. And, you know, we've talked about it all year that Aliquippa's offensive line, defensive line averages over 300 pounds. And Bell Vernon just ran into that roadblock all day with their running game. I mean, Quentin Martin, Devin Whitlock just couldn't get anything going against that defensive front for Aliquippa. And offensively, I mean, Aliquippa just dominated the time of possession. I mean, it was 14-0 in the after, you know, the third or fourth drive, I think, of the game. And, you know, it just looked like Bell Vernon wasn't ever going to score. I mean, Aliquippa just was locking them down and just dominated time of possession. I mean, they won time of possession in this game by 13 minutes. I mean, that's just insane.
That's incredible. They had by more than one quarter.
For more than a quarter. Yeah, it was just, you know, and it was, and it was just a slow, heavy diet of the running game. You know, it wasn't quite 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but it was, you know, 5 yards here, 6 yards there, 7 yards there, break off a 12-yard run, might get stopped once, but then, you know, it was, and then, you know, the couple times Aliquippa had to throw and, you know, Bell Vernon started cheating up to stop the run, and then Aliquippa hit him with a play action pass over the top, and it was just, you know, Aliquippa is really, really good, and congratulations to the Quips. You know, after being forced up into 4A by the success formula, you know, reaching the WPIAL title game last year, and winning it this year, just an awesome performance. And, you know, I love this picture. It looks like it's in a snow globe with all the snow falling and everything. It's just so cool. So now Aliquippa gets to play Jersey Shore, who played Thomas Jefferson in the state championship game last year. And because of the way the brackets were, it was kind of because of COVID and District 11 not playing in the state playoffs last year, the District 4, where Jersey Shore is, it got moved over to the other side of the 4A bracket last year. And so Jersey Shore reached the title game. And then this year that they, you know, District 11 came back, everything's back to a normal bracket. So District 4 and District 7 are now on the same half of the bracket. And so Aliquippa against Jersey Shore, you know, Jersey Shore's been really good this year. But I mean, that line for Aliquippa, man, I mean, it's just something else. I mean, you know, 5 high schoolers that have an average weight more than the Steelers offensive line. I mean, that's just, you know, trying to run through them is nearly impossible. I mean, Aliquippa's only loss this year was to Central Valley, and that was like a 21-12 game. So that was a pretty hard fought game. So yeah, I mean, Aliquippa has just been outstanding, and they're a young team too. Taquai Hayes, the freshman running back, Quentin Good, sophomore quarterback, John Tracy, sophomore running back. I mean, these Quips are going to be good for a long, long time.
Well, and Jersey Shore, I tell you what, Coach Gravish, just a tremendous job. I mean, basically kind of coming out of nowhere last year to make it to the state championship game, and arguably maybe the best game of the weekend, you know, against Thomas Jefferson, who was a prohibitive favorite. That they hung right in there, and it came down to a final play. I mean, you know, and to get back there and actually possibly even improve over last year's team, you know, obviously they're running into a buzzsaw in Aliquippa, you know, here, but, you know, kudos to Jersey Shore. But I like Aliquippa in this game. I think, just like as you touched on, I mean, you know, they're a juggernaut, just like Thomas Jefferson was the juggernaut, you know, last year in 4A out of the WPIAL.
Yeah. So for those who may not know, Jersey Shore is kind of up near Williamsport. But fun fact that Jersey Shore was founded by a family who left New Jersey to get away from the Jersey Shore, and then founded a town and named it after the Jersey Shore. So
that's really good. I mean, fun facts there by my buddy Ian, but that's good stuff.
I love
Look,
history.
there's a lot of people from all over the state that are, you know, watching, you know, the program too. And so kudos to Ian for that fun fact.
Yeah. Yes. All right. And Aliquippa is named for Queen Aliquippa, who was one of the main allies of George Washington in the
Okay. See,
Continental
and see, I didn't know that either. So
Yes.
we'll definitely have to put that in the teaser that we not only talk football, we talk history.
Talk history. It's everything. The show is
Exactly
everything.
right.
Yeah. So looking at the statewide bracket, got two bishop schools. Actually, I think there's four bishop schools that made the state semifinals, because Bishop Canavan and Bishop Guilfoyle in 1A, and then Bishop Shanahan and Bishop McDevitt here in 4A.
Yeah.
Two bishop schools going head to head on the other side of the bracket. Bishop Shanahan out of District 1 and Bishop McDevitt out of District 3.
Shanahan came from behind to beat Valley View last week. And McDevitt kind of held off a really tough Lampeter Strasburg team, like 7-0.
Yeah.
But McDevitt is loaded. I mean, they've got a lot of young talent on that team. Shanahan, a bit more experienced, but that's going to be a tough one because they're playing in Coatesville, which is Shanahan country. That's, I tell you what, that's the toughest game for me to call of the entire weekend, is the McDevitt Shanahan game. Based on, both, items here too, I kind of like McDevitt because they've been there before. But Shanahan, I wouldn't put it past them to come away with the win there too. But McDevitt and Coach Wechter, I mean, they're historically there. They've made deep runs recently in the state tournament. So I'll go with McDevitt in that one.
Okay. Moving on to 5A, this was the best championship game of the weekend by far. Moon and Penn Trafford, just pretty much like we talked about last week, right? Moon wanted to grind it out, and they ground out, 3 touchdowns, and Penn Trafford hit 3 big plays for touchdowns. Cade Yacomelli had like a 50-yard Wisconsin commit. Cade Yacomelli had like a 50-yard touchdown scamper, and then caught a 92-yard swing pass. He kind of lined up in the backfield, flared out to the side, and caught a pass down the sideline that he took all the way for a touchdown. And then Carter Green, their quarterback, ran for a long touchdown too. So Penn Trafford hit a field goal to start the game, 3 long touchdowns, and Moon's touchdowns all came on kind of grinded out drives. But Moon had a chance at the end here. Moon drove it down the field. He's got the ball back with about 2.5 minutes left, drove it all the way down, got it down to about the 10-yard line, maybe 15 or so, but had a relatively short, like 34-yard field goal attempt to tie the game, and Jake Weiland, their kicker, just pushed it to the right. And I mean, that's such a hard kick for a high schooler to make.
Yeah.
That like when you're on the hash mark, to have to get it back to the middle of the field, like, because the high school hash marks are so wide that it's so hard to get that ball back to the middle of the field, and especially kicking on Heinz Field, which has a terrible playing surface. After this was the 5th game of the weekend too.
Right.
So after
it's going to be pretty
games,
tore up. People don't realize how tore up those fields get.
Yeah.
I mean, they really get roughed up.
Yeah. 5 games on a natural grass field in 2 days. And then it was snowing too. So like the field was just in bad shape. And I mean, I felt really bad for the kid missing the kick, but for Penn Trafford, like we said at the beginning, they'd won the most playoff games of any WPIAL team without winning a championship. So this is just awesome for their program to see them win their first WPIAL title. And, at the end of the day, Moon has nothing to hang their heads about either. I mean, this was Moon's first championship game appearance since 1998. It was a historic season for them. They played tough, hard-nosed football the whole game. I mean, this was a grinded out type game, and both teams played really, really well. So moving forward now, Penn Trafford gets Exeter Township, who pulled a massive upset over Governor Mifflin in the District 3 championship game. And I'll let you talk about this one because I know you covered that game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, one of the things that nobody really everybody was talking about the fact that Nick Singleton really didn't touch the ball all that much for Governor Mifflin, but kudos to Exeter Township. They scored 14 points off turnovers and had a significant time of possession, advantage. Eric Nangle was just money, but I think that what Exeter showed is that they can run it, but they can throw it too. Joey Schlaffer, I mean, he's going to Penn State for a reason. He is a matchup nightmare. He's 6'7". Can basically, Colin Payne can just like put it up there and he can go get it. They brought J.R. Strauss into the tight end into the equation. He had a good game. Ty Yoakum, I mean, he's just a beast up the middle, blocking for Nangle. And just like Penn Trafford, I mean, uncharted territory. Sometimes teams, you get to the point and they kind of reach their goal and there's nothing left in the tank. Well, I think for both Penn Trafford and Exeter Township in this game, that's equal footing because they've never been, both teams have never gotten this far in the state tournament. There's really no advantage. I think it is going to be, interesting to see how Exeter plays it because, Penn Trafford, big play. Okay. Kind of like Governor Mifflin. Exeter Township, boy, they held the ball. They threw it when they had to. They played really tough defense. So, and I may be calling this game again, not for sure yet, but I may have to head up the Bald Eagle there on Friday and call this game. So I won't make a pick, but boy, I sure like the matchup. I think it's a total toss-up between these two teams. I think it's going to be a really hard-nosed game between them.
Yeah. So, and I do have to say that my note here on the bottom about the location and date is wrong. It's Friday night at Bald Eagle Area High School. Yeah, which is what's that, outside of Clearfield, I think, like kind of Bellefonte, up by State College. Okay, yeah. Bellefonte by State College.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, and this is, like we said, two great storylines coming together too, because first time district titles for both of them. That in Exeter, what were they, like the number 7 seed or something?
Number
like that?
7 seed, yeah. But yeah. I picked them before the tournament even started. That they were going to be, for the 7th seed. That was just kind of a fluke. They were playing their best football, and they obviously, played their best football down the stretch, as well. But you're exactly right. They were a 7 seed.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool for them, obviously winning their first district title, and for Penn Trafford winning their first WPIAL title. Yeah, I agree. And like you said, you've got D1 recruits all over the field here with Cade Giacomelli as a Wisconsin recruit, and Joey Scheffler is the Penn State recruit. And I think Exeter has some other guys who are being highly recruited as well. So
one going to Villanova and a couple other guys there. So
yeah. And I think Carter Green, Penn Trafford's quarterback, I think he's going to a D1 school for lacrosse. I knew he was like one of the top lacrosse players. And that kid is tough. I mean, he took some big hits from Moon's defense and just pops right back up. And, it's interesting seeing how lacrosse translates to football, because they just stuck him in at quarterback this year. But it translates really well with the elusiveness and agility and maneuverability around the field. And this is a game too. Penn Trafford's line doesn't get talked about enough. Their offensive and defensive lines did a really good job against a really strong Moon front on both sides of the ball. I mean, Moon was able to run the ball, but Moon had two 240-pound running backs that they were just turning around and handing the ball off to, and Penn Trafford did what they could to slow those guys down and make Moon kind of matriculate the ball down the field. So this one's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun matchup. And like you say, congratulations to both these teams just for getting to this point and winning their first district titles in school history. Kind of unfortunately, though, you've got a monster in Imhotep Charter on the other side of the bracket that just destroyed Cathedral Prep this past week. And last week you said that those Imhotep guys were really pumped up for this game, and boy, did they take it out on Cathedral Prep. It was like 42-7.
Imhotep may be playing the best football of any team in the state, regardless of classification. I mean, they're just firing on all cylinders. They've got such an incredible defense. Now you've got that coupled with the fact that their offense is really starting to take off. Wow. I mean, that's really Strathaven, they've had a great season. I don't think they have a shot this week. And quite honestly, I would view Imhotep Charter as like this, the juggernaut that, like Southern Columbia has always been in 2A. I think Imhotep's turning that into that in 5A because they've got all these players, just about, I think the whole team's back next year. So Imhotep has really got it rolling. I've seen it play once, talked to Coach Johnson, a couple of times here, including, before last week's game. He seemed pretty positive. And man, when you see these guys out on the field, they're just enormously impressive. So, whoever comes out of the western side of the bracket is really going to have their hands full. That's for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of impressive teams, Mount Lebanon just took it to Erie McDowell last week. I think it was 44-7 or something like that. I mean, Mount Lebanon, really, really impressive performance. And, Eli Heidenreich, both rushing and receiving and returning, just a dominant performance. He kind of does it all for Mount Lebanon. Alex Tex has been probably the 6A player of the year for Mount Lebanon, just the way he's dominated this year on the ground. Heidenreich's going to Navy. Texas got a few offers but hasn't committed anywhere yet. Now running into a State College team out of District 6 that kind of, State College is, I don't want to say they're almost a shoe-in because I think they're like one of two District 6A teams. So, they've kind of been almost a shoe-in. I guess Altoona is the other one, and there might be a third one. I don't know. But at any rate, State College has won a lot of district titles, but, hasn't made it past the state semis ever. This is their fifth time the state semifinals. They're 0-4. And Mount Lebanon, they're 0-1 in the state semifinals. Last time they were here was 2000, which was the last time they won a WPIAL title. I think they lost to Cathedral Prep that year out of Erie. But Mount Lebanon looking to get to their first state championship game. And I got to think just overall that Mount Lebanon is the superior team here.
Well, give credit where credit is due with State College. They're not flashy. They're gonna be, ball control. They don't have a lot of real deep threats, passing or whatever like that. They just go out and win. And they did that against Harrisburg. I mean, it was no slouch. In fact, I saw them actually lose at Harrisburg on a, last minute touchdown, during the regular season. So, I was impressed with State College this year. Coach Lintel, great guy. And he always has this team ready to play. But Mount Lebanon, clearly on a roll. They haven't, obviously they're not that juggernaut that we always seem to see out of the WPIAL and that. I mean, obviously not winning a title for 20 some years or what have you, but they sure look the part, don't they?
They certainly do, and they've got the coach now to do it too. I mean, Bob Palka, who we had on a few weeks ago, there's a reason he's won 8 WPIAL championships. He knows how to win big games. Yeah. And looking forward here too, obviously I think the Farrell Serra game is one of the best games statewide, but I'm really intrigued by this Garnet Valley St. Joe's Prep game too.
I mean, it's just filled with storylines. Garnet Valley's head coach announced that he was retiring before the season. How incredible would it be for them to like get to the state final and have this guy possibly win a state championship in his final game. We were talking about that the other night. My buddy Dave, Mike, and I, we can't remember that ever happening, that a retiring coach had won a state championship in his final game. So that's kind of hanging out there as like the story that will override the weekend in Hershey if it happens. But St. Joe Prep, just when you think that there's a chink in the armor or want to count them out, they've come back with a vengeance this year. You know, everybody was picking them to get whitewashed by LaSalle College, and they turned the tide and whitewashed LaSalle and kind of ran through things. I think that the game last week with Freedom was it was a late touchdown that kind of skewed the score, that made it, you know, a bit closer of a game than what it was. You know, they got their starting quarterback back. Their defense is, boy, gonna play tough. But Garnet Valley has like 30 seniors on that roster, okay? And they're playing for more than just themselves. They're playing for this coach and this whole legacy. I mean, it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. But you've heard me talk all the time. I've liked Garnet Valley when they were ranked number 7 in the state, okay? As a team that was one of the best teams in the state in 6A. I like them in this game. I think that they will, you know, that they'll come through, and I would expect that it would be, you know, Garnet Valley and Mount Lebanon. And when you started the season, we knew 6A was open, but a Mount Lebanon Garnet Valley 6A final. But how great is that for the state, though?
That'll be amazing. That'll be great. I mean, I want to see Mount Lebanon do it, but just because of my, you know, connections with the community and the program. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I think Mount Lebanon's a clear favorite over State College, but you know, whoever they play, it'll be their first state final in school history, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, we were talking about this on the pre-snap look as well. You know, because of Coach Palco, you know, and his experience, the moment will not be too big for that team. I mean, he's got the experience himself to keep them grounded, and he's got them focused, and look out. I mean, that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. And now he's got them in a spot where they can do something that no Mount Lebanon team has ever done before. Well, I guess, you know, technically, I think if you look at like the Dr. Saylor's mythical state titles list, I think Mount Lebanon has a few of those. But like as far as the actual state bracket from 1988 onward, no Mount Lebanon team has gone farther than this. So you know, now they've still got something to play for. You know, with their group of, they've got a big senior class too. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, looking forward to a fun semifinal weekend. So just looking across the state here, you know, we had 3 districts not represented in the state semifinals. That was District 2, which is kind of the Northeast Pennsylvania area, District 5, which is the, you know, Somerset, South Central-ish area, and then District 8, which is the Pittsburgh City League. But all the other districts, 9 other districts represented in the state final, or in the state semifinals, I should say. 6 WPIAL teams. No other district has more than 3, although I'll say, you know, the WPIAL champion goes straight to the semifinals in 5 of the 6 districts. So it's kind of, you know,
that it's kind of like skewed for that statistic, but you know, it is what it is.
Yes. So we'll see, but good representation all around. And you never know. I mean, District 4 has been really strong lately. You know, your District 3 schools have done well. Actually, interesting fact, District 1 has not won a state title since we went to 6 classifications. So, I was looking through some numbers, and I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for, I'd say that of the District 1 schools, Garnet Valley has the best shot. Shanahan, you know, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Aliquippa. I mean, even if they get through Bishop McDevitt, it would be hard to beat That would be a tall order, man, to be Bishop McDevitt and then Aliquippa in consecutive weeks. But hey, I mean, that's the beauty of this tournament, you know. And I think that so much is wide open. You know, the two behemoths that were out there for the last 5 years, Southern Columbia and St. Joe Prep. I mean, they're still in it, but they don't have the same type of invincibility that they've had in previous years. Would you agree?
I mean, they've both lost this year, so yeah, they're not invincible, but St. Joe's Prep overcame their loss to LaSalle, beat them the second time around. Southern Columbia's loss was to Wyomissing, who's a 3A school and one of the best 3A schools in the state. So, but Southern Columbia had some other close calls before that.
Correct. I mean, they almost lost the week before, or a couple weeks prior to that. They were trailing big at halftime and came back. Give them credit. They haven't steamrolled over everybody. I mean, let's just say both of those teams, in years past, they just steamrolled over everybody and had such a talent gap over everybody that they did play or would play, that, there was just like, oh, well, it was this, inevitability factor of, that they were just going to show up and win. That's not the case this year. Would you agree at that?
Oh, I definitely agree. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd love to see Mount Lebanon get a shot at St. Joe's Prep. I think, whoever wins between Farrell and Serra getting a shot at Southern Columbia is going to be a great state final game. So yeah, I think both the 6A and the 2A brackets are going to be a close title game.
I think there's a lot of great stories that are shaping up, that I think that, obviously we're rooting for, which, well, that's what we'll be talking about next week, right? I mean, with the Blitz show, Hershey edition there. And that's what's really going to be fun. Obviously, you're going to have some WPIAL guys, but we'll have the other storylines of all of the other, games as well. It just becomes so exciting and so incredible, as we really come down. And sometimes it's heart-wrenching too, because so many of these teams now have gotten to this particular point, and each one of these teams has a story, and unfortunately there's only going to be one champion.
Yep, that's true. Although, I will say too that, like, for the teams that lost this week, like, there was a lot of great storylines of teams that just made it to WPIAL championship games and lost, like Moon, like North Catholic, even Olsh, Bell Vernon, that, you look back on this, maybe in 20 or 30 years, and you're gonna say, wow, like they made 2 championship games in 3 years or something like that, that was a great accomplishment for that school, and they haven't been back since. Bishop Canevin winning their first WPIAL title since 1990, like, the first time in 31 years that we had a lot of really good storylines this year.
There's a lot of great storylines.
Even the teams that don't win at all, there's you're going to look back on this and remember this is a historic season.
Sure. The Exeter Penn Trafford story in 5A, one of those teams is going to get to a state championship game, something that obviously the school and the community will revel, for forever, I mean, so where, who's the heartbreak going to be with, like, this week? I mean, those are obviously, this is heartbreak weekend, isn't it?
It kind of is. Yeah. This is, at least for the WPIAL teams, it's almost like a letdown week, because you had, you played in the WPIAL championship game, you played at Heinz Field, and now you got to play another game just to get to the state championship game, so it's like you won a championship, but now you've got this, it's almost like a letdown of like, oh, we got to go play another game. Okay, cool. But what's it for? It's for to get to a championship. You know what I mean? It's not like you win a championship and play another championship game.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot. Talk about that a lot, and you've heard me make mention of the fact that sometimes there's just no emotion left in the tank because their goal was to get through that district championship, what schools, and like I said, for the Penn Trafford Exeter game really doesn't matter because both teams, this is their first district championship ever. They've never been that far. So they're really in the same boat. There's not really one that, that I don't think that there's that advantage. In fact, there's really not a lot of those, games out there that you would say that emotionally that team left everything out on the field last week. I think most every one of these teams or whatever like that is still kind of riding that emotion and using it in a positive way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. And just to wrap one thing up here too, that, when we talked with Farrell's coach about the success formula and moving up and whatnot. So we did this last week too. Some teams have lost and dropped off. But there are a handful of teams here that have gotten to those 6 success points that could be moved up if they get enough transfers. One of them is Cathedral Prep, who got moved up to 5A this time. So if they have enough transfers, they'll get moved up to 6A next time. And Aliquippa now is a win away if they make it to the state title game. If they win this week, they're gonna get that 6th point. And if depending on their transfers, might have to move up to 5A, which would just be insane.
Oh, man.
And we've talked about this before, but Aliquippa, 1A size school, chose to play up in 3A voluntarily. And then the state instituted the success formula, and all of a sudden, they had accumulated enough success points in 3A to be bumped up to 4A this cycle. And there was a couple things in play there too. Number one, with Aliquippa, was that the WPIAL champion got a bye in the state bracket for those last 2 years that counted towards that success formula. And so Aliquippa argued, hey, we played our WPIAL championship game, and we lost on the round of 16 weekend, and the winner got a bye through the next round. So we should have like 1 success point less. And the state said, no, the WPIAL champion got a bye, but we're counting the championship game like a quarterfinal game, even though it was played, the weekend prior when we were in our round of 16. So, they had an appeal last time they lost, obviously, because they had to play up in 4A. But I mean, this is, just the way that Aliquippa as a community is able to continually overcome everything that's thrown at them from, it was an old mill town, the mill closed, just
they
total
don't care,
economic
right?
desolation. They just keep, all they do is win. And there's a great book out there that a guy from Sports Illustrated wrote called Playing Through the Whistle, just about the sort of interconnection between the history of Aliquippa as a town and their football program. I highly recommend reading it. It's a great read. And yeah, it's just awesome. Central Valley is already moving up to 4A next year. We know that from enrollment, but it'll be interesting to see if they're, I don't know if the enrollment moves them up, would they in the success formula would also move them up?
I don't know.
I don't know how that's going to work.
DM us if you have the answer to that question.
Yeah. And, obviously YO, Southern Columbia, Bishop Guilfoyle have enough to move up, but we'll see how the transfers work out. Southern Columbia has somehow been able to skate past that transfer thing for a while and stay in 2A. But nevertheless, that's all we've got for today. And thanks to everyone for tuning in and watching the show. We had 2 great head coaches on. We're really looking forward to that, Farrell Serra 2A semifinal, just two great teams going head to head. And thanks to our sponsors. Thanks for everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. And, looking forward to this weekend and then Hershey next weekend.
Yeah. I can't thank my buddy Ian there enough for, putting all this information together and, the discussion that we have here. It's so much fun for me. I learned so much from this show every single week, and that's the reason why we started the show. And I think on both sides too, Ian's learned a lot more about, his expertise and analysis, has kind of branched out to, other parts of the state and out of the PIAA tournament there. And the fans are fortunate that he's done that because he does a great job in putting all that stuff together. So thank you, my friend. And, we'll see how it all shakes out here, this next week, coming up.
Yeah.
Heartbreak weekend. I think we've coined a phrase.
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
For the state semifinal weekend here. So anyway, I think we've taken up enough of these people's time for 1 week. But anyway,
Sure.
for my buddy Ian McMeans, I'm Bruce Badgley. Listen, thanks for watching the WPIAL Blitz Show. Tell your friends about it. And hey, we'll be back next week with the Hershey edition. Until then, take care now.